Ugly tractors. Every farm has one. Some of them look like they crawled out of a scrap pile, and others just make you wonder, what were they thinking? But ugly doesn't always mean useless. In fact, some of the ugliest tractors in American history were also workhorses that kept farms running. Let's take a look at some of the strangest, most awkward-looking tractors you've probably never heard of. The International Harvester Mogul 816. The Mogul 816 wasn't just ugly. It looked like a collection of spare parts that someone welded together in a hurry. Built between 1914 and 1917, it was a lightweight tractor meant for small farms. But while it was practical, it was also, well, lopsided. The engine was mounted to one side, while a giant flywheel stuck out from the other. This created an unbalanced look that made you wonder if the designer had second thoughts halfway through. And the steel wheels? Spindly, thin spokes that made the whole thing look even more awkward. With a single-cylinder engine putting out about 8 horsepower on the drawbar and 16 on the belt, it was reliable, but it wasn't winning any beauty contests. Farmers appreciated its affordability, even if they had to deal with its gangly silhouette. Today, it's a favorite at antique tractor shows, where people marvel at its odd design and chuckle at its strange proportions. Leader Model D. The Leader Model D, produced from the late 1930s into the early 1950s, was an attempt at an affordable tractor for small farms. Affordable, yes. Attractive? Absolutely not. If the McCormick Deering looked like a battle machine, the Leader Model D looked like a collection of random parts that just happened to move in the same direction. Its back wheels were tall and spindly, the front end was too narrow, and the engine looked like it was slapped onto the frame as an afterthought. It had minimal sheet metal, which meant that a lot of its guts were exposed to the elements, and to anyone unfortunate enough to walk by and get a face full of grease. The seat? A metal pan bolted onto the rear axle, offering about as much comfort as sitting on a milk crate. Performance-wise, it could handle small jobs like mowing and light plowing, making it a decent step up from garden tractors. But the design left a lot to be desired. Some joke that it was built in the dark because of how oddly its parts were arranged. The large steering wheel looked out of place, but it had to be that big to give the driver enough leverage to actually turn the thing. Despite its appearance, the Leader Model D found a niche among farmers who couldn't afford the bigger brands. It may have looked like a school project gone wrong, but it worked. And when you're running a farm, function always wins over fashion, though a little more effort in the design department wouldn't have hurt. McCormick Deering 1530. Back in the early 1920s, farmers were saying goodbye to their horses and hello to the McCormick Deering 1530. This was progress, but it sure wasn't pretty. With massive steel wheels covered in spiked lugs, this tractor looked like it was ready for battle rather than farming. The engine stuck out in front like a nose that had been broken too many times, and the radiator was just a big boxy slab with zero effort put into style. But hey, this thing worked. Its 4-cylinder engine packed enough power to outwork multiple teams of horses, which was all that mattered to farmers at the time. The 15-30 may have been ugly, but it was tough. The problem was those wheels. Designed for traction, they made the tractor look like it was wearing medieval armor. Farmers even had to wrap the lugs in old rubber or bolt on extra plates to keep from tearing up their fields, making an already clunky-looking machine even clumsier. It didn't help that the exhaust pipe was positioned right in front of the driver's face, ensuring that every ride was an adventure in coughing. If tractors had beauty contests, the McCormick Deering 1530 would have been asked to stay in the barn. Still, it played a huge role in mechanizing American agriculture, even if it looked like it belonged in a museum of industrial oddities. Hart Parr 1224. Before the big names in tractors took over, there was Hart Parr, one of the pioneers of the industry. They even coined the term tractor, but being first doesn't always mean being best looking. And the Hart Parr 1224 proved that in spades. Produced in the 1920s, this machine looked more like a rolling boiler than a piece of farm equipment. The wheels were towering, spoked steel monstrosities that made the tractor look like it was on stilts. The radiator was a big, boxy lump sitting up front, and the engine was a massive horizontal 2-cylinder beast with an open crankcase that threw oil and grime in every direction. If you ever wanted to get covered in grease while farming, this was the tractor for you. One of its standout features was its air washing system, which used oil vapors to keep the engine cool. Effective? Yes. Pretty? Not even close. This system added even more bulk to an already awkward-looking machine. The driver sat up high, teetering on a small platform with barely any protection from heat, noise, or the occasional flying belt. People used to joke that the operator looked like they were about to be swallowed by the machine at any moment. Still, the Hartpar 1224 had its fans. It was reliable, easy to maintain, and ran on cheap kerosene instead of gasoline. But let's be honest, it looked like something a mad scientist would build in their backyard. The Cletrac Model F. If the Model F had a spirit animal, it would be a beetle. Low to the ground, awkwardly shaped, but tough as nails. Built by the Cleveland Tractor Company in 1919, this crawler tractor looked like a tank that misplaced its turret. It had a compact, boxy design that made it sturdy but visually unimpressive. Powered by a 4-cylinder engine pushing around 15 horsepower, the Model F was no speed demon, but its tracks gave it excellent traction. The problem? It just looked weird. The short and wide frame, the exposed gears, and the tiny operator seat made it seem like a construction vehicle that wandered into farming by mistake. But ugly or not, it got the job done. It handled rough terrain better than many of its competitors, which meant farmers kept using it despite its looks. Over time, tractor design moved towards sleeker, more powerful machines, leaving the Model F as a relic of an era when looking good wasn't even on the checklist. The John Deere GP Orchard. John Deere is known for making iconic green and yellow machines, but when they tried to make a tractor for orchard work, they accidentally created one of the strangest looking machines in their lineup. The GP Orchard, built between 1928 and 1935, was covered in sheet metal from head to toe to prevent fruit tree branches from getting caught in the machinery. The result? A tractor that looked like it was wearing a medieval suit of armor. The oversized fenders, extended hood, and close-fitting panels gave it a bloated, awkward appearance. Some farmers swore it looked like a prototype for a farm tank, built to wage war against apples and peaches. Underneath the metal casing was a 2-cylinder engine generating 20 to 25 horsepower, enough to navigate tight orchard rows. But visibility? Not great. The extra shielding made it tricky to see what was ahead, making turns an adventure and guesswork. Still, orchard farmers loved it. The design actually worked, reducing crop damage and helping farmers harvest more fruit. Today, the GP Orchard is a collector's item. But back in the day, it was a rolling reminder that sometimes practicality comes at the cost of looking ridiculous. The Farmall F12 International Harvester made some legendary tractors, but the Farmall F12? That's a face only a farmer could love. Introduced in 1932, it was designed to straddle rows of crops like corn and cotton without crushing them. Great for farming, but visually, not so much. The narrow front end, tall frame, and skeletal steel wheels made it look like a farm machine designed by a committee that never met in person. Under the hood, it had a 4-cylinder engine that pushed out between 10 and 16 horsepower. It wasn't the most powerful thing, but it got the job done. It had 3 forward speeds, which meant farmers had options, but not many. And the operator station? Let's just say comfort wasn't a priority. If you like exposed mechanical parts and a bare metal seat, this was the tractor for you. Collectors appreciate it today, but park an F12 next to a modern tractor, and you might think someone stole half the panels. Still, for all its awkwardness, it was a solid machine that helped shape modern row crop farming. Ugly? Absolutely. Reliable? Without a doubt. The Case 1832 Cross Motor. Some tractors look strange from certain angles. The Case 1832 looks strange from all angles. Produced between 1919 and 1928, it had an engine mounted sideways. Yes, sideways. It was supposed to make maintenance easier and balance the tractor's weight, but visually it just looked like someone installed the engine the wrong way. The 4-cylinder engine put out 18 horsepower at the drawbar and 32 on the belt, which was decent for the time. But the layout meant the cylinder heads, spark plugs, and other components stuck out like an open-air science project. And the radiator? It sat up front like a big boxy afterthought. If you saw it from the wrong angle, you might assume it was two different tractors welded together in a rush. Functionally, it worked. Farmers got used to its quirks, and the design had a small but dedicated following. But as tractors evolved, the cross-motor layout faded into history. Today, the 1832 is a relic of an era when manufacturers were still figuring things out, sometimes in very odd ways. The Yuba ball tread tractor. This one looked less like a tractor and more like something NASA forgot on the moon. Built by Yuba Manufacturing in the early 1900s, this bizarre machine replaced traditional wheels with rotating ball treads. Picture metal plates rolling in circles like an oversized mechanical centipede. It was meant to improve traction on soft ground, but it mostly improved people's ability to point and laugh. Powering this contraption was a four-cylinder engine delivering about 15 to 25 horsepower. Decent for the time. But let's be real. Nobody was talking about the engine when the wheels looked like they belonged on an alien spacecraft. County fairs became prime roasting grounds for this machine, with onlookers debating whether it was missing tires or just having an identity crisis. Despite the ridicule, the Yuba ball tread actually worked well in marshy conditions. But as technology advanced, it became clear that farmers preferred tractors that didn't look like they were growing metal mushrooms. Yuba eventually disappeared from the market, but this oddball remains a historic reminder that not every innovation is a pretty one. The John Deere Dane all-wheel drive. Before John Deere became the king of green and yellow, there was the Dane all-wheel drive. Built in 1918, this was Deere's first attempt at a motorized farm machine, and let's just say it was an experiment. This thing sat high off the ground, perched on massive steel wheels, wrapped in thick sheet metal that looked more like it belonged in a factory than on a farm. It had all-wheel drive, which was impressive for the time, but it also meant visible gears, drive shafts, and differentials that made it look like someone forgot to finish assembling it. With about 30 horsepower under the hood, it had potential, but its towering stance and cluttered frame made it an oddball. The Dane was never mass-produced, and John Deere quickly moved on to more polished designs. Today, it's a rare collector's item, one that serves as a reminder that even the biggest names in the business had some rough starts. The Silver King Model 42. The name sounds cool. The tractor? Not so much. The Silver King Model 42 was a three-wheeled machine that stood out for all the wrong reasons. Built in the 1930s by the Fate Root Heath Company in Plymouth, Ohio, it had a single front wheel that stuck out like an afterthought. Add in the offset engine cowling and minimal sheet metal, and you've got a tractor that looked like it was designed during a lunch break. It was powered by a four-cylinder Hercules engine with around 25 horsepower, which was respectable. The tight turning radius was a plus, making it surprisingly nimble. But looks-wise, the thing was a spindly, unbalanced oddball. And then there was the paint. Silver, all silver. Because why not? It stood out in a field, but not always in a good way. Despite the questionable looks, Silver Kings have a cult following today. They were small, maneuverable, and ahead of their time in some ways. But put one next to a modern tractor, and it still looks like an experiment that escaped the factory. The Avery Road Tractor BF. If a tractor could be described as having bad posture, the Avery Road Tractor BF would be the prime example. Made by Avery & Sons in Louisville, Kentucky, this contraption was built for row crop work in the 30s and 40s. The design? Let's just say it looked like it was permanently on stilts. The high-arch front axle was great for clearing crops, but made the tractor look like it was about to topple over. The narrow front wheels and elongated radiator grille added to the awkward stance, making it appear perpetually on tiptoe. Not exactly intimidating. Under the hood, it had a modest four-cylinder engine. Nothing powerful, but enough to get the job done. Farmers who needed a machine that could work between tall crops found it useful, even if they had to overlook its gangly appearance. Eventually, BF Avery merged with other companies, and this odd-looking piece of machinery faded into history. But its memory lives on as proof that form always takes a backseat to function. The Hart Par 3. And now the grand champion of ugly tractors, the Hart Par 3. If there was ever a tractor that looked like it was built by accident, this would be it. Launched around 1906, this beast was one of the first successful gasoline-powered tractors. But successful doesn't mean pretty. The engine was massive, with giant external flywheels and thick exposed gears. The radiator, a giant metal box slapped on the front. And the seat, barely more than a metal perch dangling behind the engine. With 30 horsepower, it was meant to replace steam engines and move farming into the future. It did that, but it also looked like someone bolted together random industrial parts and called it a day. Despite its appearance, the Hartpar 3 played a crucial role in agricultural history. It introduced the term tractor into farming vocabulary and paved the way for more modern designs. Today, it's a prized museum piece, a reminder of a time when tractors didn't have to be sleek, they just had to work. Ugly or not, these tractors did what they were made to do. They plowed fields, planted crops, and kept farms running long before sleek designs and brand aesthetics mattered. So next time you see a modern tractor, spare a thought for these old-timers. The machines that prove function will always be more important than form. But hey, which one do you think was the ugliest of them all? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this ride through some of America's weirdest farm machines, hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.